So what's up guys, Obstacle here, and today I just wanted to discuss where I've been, and also discussing my thoughts on Call of Duty Vanguard, and how I feel about this whole, um, this whole thing that we've had lately with Black Ops Cold War and Call of Duty Vanguard, because unfortunately it's felt like a really dull experience for me personally, not Vanguard, because I do find that Call of Duty Vanguard has been a step in the right direction, but I want to discuss obviously how I feel about Black Ops Cold War since it's near the end of its life cycle. So before we discuss that, let's talk about obviously where Black Ops Cold War started off, because I feel like starting off with that allows us to have a better understanding of, just exactly the situation it was in before it came out for release. So let's just discuss that first. So midway through 2019, it was announced that Sledgehammer was developing an entry into the Call of Duty franchise after they developed World War II. Currently, the entry in the Call of Duty franchise we had so far was the Modern Warfare reboot, and it was okay. Like, there were some things it did right, but there was a lot of things it did that I really didn't like. And I'm going to be honest with you on that, like, I will not lie. So, anyway, what we knew about Sledgehammer's new, thing after Modern Warfare 2019 was that it was called Call of Duty Vietnam, or at least that's what the leakers were discussing. And, with leaks, we always took it as a grain of salt, but because of the fact that multiple leaks were coming out with this, we just all figured, okay, yeah, it's called Vietnam, and we knew where it was going to be set. Now, obviously, I think it's safe to discuss, what went on, because what was meant to happen was that this was meant to release in 2020, but midway through 2020, we had the pandemic, but also that Activision didn't like the final product that Sledgehammer gave, and Treyarch was put onto development. And this development that Treyarch was taking over was Black Ops 5. And as I said, it was going to be where Sledgehammer Games left off. Then later on, we found out that this Black Ops 5 entry was actually going to be a reboot of the Black Ops franchise, much like with what Modern Warfare did with its franchise. And a lot of people were mixed about this, including myself, because, we all thought, well, where can it go from here? Because I personally find that Black Ops 3 should have kind of been in some ways where that left off, but sorry, Black Ops 4, sorry. So because obviously there was not much story to it, and we felt like Black Ops 2 in a sense, because they weren't going to acknowledge after what Black Ops 1 had, it was more or less like a mini continuation. How could they reboot it? So myself, I just was like, well, like, why? As I do believe a lot of Call of Duty fans felt like that as well. And with the fact that Raven Software was put on it, this wasn't really Treyarch's full-blown story, because Raven Software was helming the whole narrative. We was all like, well, the fact that although yes, Raven does some great storytelling, this isn't really Treyarch's story in a sense. So obviously, we now need to look at how this goes. So anyway, then in mid of 2020, like after Sledgehammer had broken the news, it was about July, like June to July, and this was going to be how Treyarch revealed it. How Treyarch was going to reveal it would be that they would send zombies influencers and just mainly Call of Duty influencers drops that they would get, and they would have to go into the original Black Ops to really discover this secret website that was going to reveal Call of Duty's title. And I was kind of mixed on that, because I felt like there's also a lot of Call of Duty fans who should have gotten the drop, or at least, like, if not, they could have been a bit more fair and just basically just done it for everyone. But, obviously it did kind of work out for them in the end. But I think, you know, the reveal was great for that we had to, you know, look at history of the Cold War, um, you know, look through obviously everything that really took place, and it started to build this narrative that yes, this was going to be called Black Ops Cold War, um, rather than it being a reboot of the franchise, which I am kind of glad they went that route, but at the same time, you could see where Sledgehammer was going with this. Like, you could see the parts of where Sledgehammer's development was, particularly in zombies, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So anyway, with Call of Duty Real, it was done through two ways. Well, three ways, sorry. So not only was it done through the website, but it was done through Warzone, and through obviously the drops that YouTubers received, because we had to go through like phone numbers and things like that. Which in some ways, yes, I think was great, but at the same time, it did kind of feel like it wasn't acknowledging the smaller Call of Duty content creators, you know, and that was kind of how I felt. I don't know if anyone else felt the same, but that was just me. Of course, you guys can always feel different, but unfortunately, it was very limited. So anyway, along comes reveal. It gets done. It's revealed in Warzone, and the reveal was called Know Your History. And you know, the name was fully dropped with some more info. But I think my biggest problem I had with this reveal is it was too long. Like, it was too almost held off in a way. You know, especially with the whole Zork thing we had with the website. But I did find it cool how you had to find out like the different codes and stuff like that through the Black Ops maps, like the original ones. So anyway, August 14th or 18th, that's when the multiplayer comes along, and you know, it looked pretty decent. It did look like pretty decent, but in the end, it does feel like that wasn't the final product. Wasn't what we was promised. You know, they said like, oh yeah, it's a direct sequel to Black Ops 1, and Black Ops 1 for me was a really good multiplayer experience. It did a lot of things right for the franchise, but at the same time, that's not to say that it didn't do some things wrong. But that's always going to be, you know, Call of Duty. It's always going to do some things that is good and then some things that are bad. But I definitely wouldn't say I would say that it had less issues. So there wasn't as much complaints. So anyway, enough of that. Let's now talk about the multiplayer experience of Black Ops Cold War as a whole. Beta, I was very 50-50 on, because I'm a PC player, so it means that I didn't get to play the alpha, because that was only for PlayStation players. So yeah, the beta was, I don't know, there were some things I liked. I liked the gunsmith system. I thought that was really good. That was definitely an improvement over what Modern Warfare had. But I didn't like the pacing of it. It felt like very dried out in a way. And it felt like Treyarch more or less focused on the, for me at least, the kind of the, I don't know how to explain it, but it definitely didn't feel like they focused on multiplayer a lot. It felt like a lot of lies. You know, they was like, oh, you know, this is direct sequel to Black Ops 1. You know, it's fast. There's a lot of changes we made. And, you know, everyone thought, well, great, because we all loved Black Ops 1. Sorry if I sound like repeating myself there, but, you know, it's the only way how I feel like I would get a point across. So, after playing the beta, as I said, I was 50-50 on it. The maps were pretty decent, you know, but I certainly had hopes that we had a lot more, but unfortunately, what we got was pretty much going to be what the maps were, and on launch at least, and I didn't like it. I did feel like Cold War spat in the face of a lot of Black Ops fans, but I wasn't as critical as what Blame Truth or Nero Cinema were, and I'll get to them in a bit. In, like, you know, not trying to start drama or anything, but I'll just talk about, like, obviously their review in a bit. So first of all, the main thing I didn't, as I said, the main thing I didn't like about the thing was just the SPMM, and the, unfortunately, I also didn't like the some of the visual aspects and like mechanical aspects that Modern Warfare had, because I liked the tactical sprint, but I didn't like the mini map system, and I also didn't like the door system that they had. So on one note, I'm kind of glad Treyarch didn't do a lot of that, but when I mean by it was a step back, I mean that, like, with a lot of the movement, it almost felt like I don't know how to describe it, but the movement felt like, if you remember the Battlefield glitches where your character was kind of moving around weirdly with the weapon in their hand, that, and like moving around like walking, that is kind of how Cold War's movement felt. It was a really awkward visual change, and while indeed I can't blame Treyarch for that, I can blame them for making that decision in some ways, because they did have lead development. So I don't know, I just felt like a lot of things they could have done better, but I'm not going to put too much shame in them, because the game was made during a pandemic. They had not a lot of time to work on it, but I felt like there was a lot of things they could have done to make it feel unique. But anyway, let's now discuss the good things, back to good things about it. So I think the good things that there was the fact that it was their game. A lot of people were excited, particularly me as well, because I've always loved Treyarch's installments. Black Ops 4 was, I don't know, I wasn't a massive fan of that, purely because it was pretty much like a game of attachments. If you had the best attachments, you were going to win the game. And for me, that doesn't really sit right, because unfortunately, Black Ops shouldn't really be a game of attachments. It should be a game of who has the more skill. And speaking of skill, the skill-based matchmaking just was not good. It felt a lot stronger in Modern Warfare 2019. Like, you could definitely tell it was there, and it's a shame because I felt as if Modern Warfare did a few things right and a few things wrong. So the main thing it did wrong, as I said, was like the door mechanics, but also just some of the color choices were a bit off for me, because it felt the colors looked very drained and like greenish and just a bit awful in general. Well, it's just awful in general because it just felt very drained out, and I'm sure a lot of content creators say the same. Modern Warfare, while indeed had some good choices, just the overall ambience just didn't feel like a Call of Duty game. It felt like something else made, like not like a fan game, but something that was directly inspired by COD, but like changed over a lot to make it feel unique. And unfortunately, that is what their final product was. But enough of that. Let's now talk about Vanguard, because I really like it. I think it felt like a game that was, in a sense, back to the drawing board, and Sledgehammer Games just sat there and was like, okay, well, what did players like about Modern Warfare, and what did they like about World War II and Cold War? And it kind of felt like a combination. I liked what they did with the minimap system in Vanguard now. So if you liked the Modern Warfare minimap, then you can equip that perk that would give you the classic minimap. So I felt like that was good, because that kind of appeals to both fans. This one also felt like it appealed to both veterans and casual players. And I want to talk about Call of Duty veterans in a bit, because I've recently come to find that they are kind of the ones that most judgmental of Call of Duty. Like, they say, oh, I'm a veteran of COD, I've been playing it for years, I want it to be like normal. But what they have to realize at the end is that Call of Duty was never normal after the first Modern Warfare. I'm not talking about the reboot, but I'm talking about like the first OG Modern Warfare. And so when they make that point, it's not like it feels invalid, but it feels like it's over exaggerated, to say the least. So because of that, I'm not sure if I agree with that point. And And like when they're like, oh well, Vanguard's a direct copy, but just back to World War II. Every Call of Duty game has been a direct copy because it runs on the same engine, reuses assets of the animations, like everything on that note. I don't think really you can make that point. I'll talk about zombies in another video though, because I just really want to discuss the, multiplayer aspect. But let's now obviously talk about the main multiplayer thing with how I feel about Vanguard. So combat pacing was a genius addition. That really helped the pacing in Vanguard, which, they kind of promised to do. So I'm very glad that they kept their promise in a sense. But obviously that's not to say that I still don't have problems with it. Sometimes it can get a bit too chaotic in Vanguard. Obviously, a lot of them have also pointed out the visual glitches or the stutters or like the visual artifacts. I'm somewhat sure that Sledgehammer Games can fix that. Well, not somewhat. I am very sure that Sledgehammer Games can fix that because they have a very hard-working team. That they've got one that's working on so much. So I think in that sense, I'm not too mad about that. But I also do feel like some of the recoil system can feel off. So, like what I mean by that is that the aim down sight can feel like just a little bit off because you feel like you're going to aim an enemy in the head. But although I will say the aim assist feels so much better than what it did in Cold War. So I'm glad that Sledgehammer Games kind of took that into account. But anyway, that's only really the main problems. But I do hate that people are saying like, oh, it's a copy of Modern Warfare. As I said, it runs on the same engine, and Call of Duty has been copying the mechanics and animations for years. It's what Call of Duty does. That's the power. Like that's like the main point of game development. So, unfortunately, and fortunately, that's kind of how it's been because it makes development faster, but it also gives Treyarch and other developers more, less of a time focused on animations or on the Vanguard notes. Now, obviously, I think the first thing we need to do is we need to take into account the whole development of how multiplayer was done. They had the alpha first, which was Champions Hill, and while indeed I still don't have a PlayStation, I saw Champions Hill and I really liked what they did with, because you could see the gunfight aspect, but I don't know, they kind of improved upon it. And for that, I'm actually very glad Sledgehammer Games did that, because gunfight in Cold War didn't feel like there was much innovation. So in that note, I will give credit where credit is due to Sledgehammer Games. And I'm going to be, as fair as I can on that bit. And also, mainly because I just feel like Vanguard was kind of the game. It kind of felt like in some ways a love letter and apology. And what I mean by that is that I feel like Sledgehammer noticed where Cold War went wrong, and it's just their way of saying, look, let's give you a game that we know you're going to enjoy. And because of that, I'm very glad that they've done that. I'm not blaming Treyarch. They had a lot of development troubles anyway, but I still feel as if they could have done better with what they had. Anyway, that's enough of me discussing that. Multiplayer now. Yeah, multiplayer Vanguard is really good. I really am a fan of the maps as well. Like, I love the maps. Mainly because the spacing's better as well. Like, you feel like you're not going to be as trapped in as many tight corners anymore. So I think that was really good that they did that. Now, I feel like where Sledgehammer Games can improve upon in multiplayer, as mentioned earlier, is that I truly do believe that they can kind of just work a bit more on the aim down sight and aim assist side. And I feel like there's some bits of optimization that they kind of need a little bit to kind of sort out, because truthfully, in like my eyes, there still needs work on it. Anyway, as I was discussing Blame, Truth, and Nero's, they have been a bit too harsh on the developers. Like, I respect that they've been playing the games for years, but it's no excuse for them treating the developers the way they have. you know, I would challenge them to make their own game and just see how they find it. And then if that was me, I would then just say, well, your game's terrible, like go back to drawing board, or, you know, you shouldn't have made it. Like, it would make not developers feel useless, but it would definitely make them feel a bit awful. You know, they tried their best for the time crunch, and I would say they've done it. But to, you know, I'm not trying to start drama or anything, but I definitely feel like they was way too harsh on the developers. So, you know, to blame Truth and Nero, if you're a content creator who wants Call of Duty to be good, don't use your whole veteran Call of Duty status to excuse yourself from being rough to developers, because there's a difference between having banter and then just slandering them. And to be honest, I'm really not a fan of that. You know, obviously, yes, there are some developers who have definitely overreacted, but at the same time, I can understand why they overreacted. So I think in that sense, you know, they need to kind of, as a content creator, give good constructive criticism. Now, while indeed there's been times where Nero and BlameTruth have given praise, they've given more criticism than praise before. And when people disagree with them, it's almost like they, like BlameTruth's mainly, but Nero's obviously guilty of it, but it feels like they kind of get annoyed in some ways. And a good example that I want to give that I feel like BlameTruth and Nero need to kind of start doing is look how Actman responds. I gave a point saying that you know, I liked it, I had fun with it, and he did a very respectful response. He was really good with it. You know, he said that, like, you know, I respect your opinion, I'm glad you enjoy it, but personally, I'm not a fan of it. And I really respected that response. I really respected him as a person for that, because at the end of the day, that's something that I respect from him as a small content creator to a, you know, a larger one. I think that was a very good response. So I will give credit to him where credit is indeed due. But anyway, you know, my final closing thoughts is that while indeed Vanguard needs just a little bit of work, I don't think it needs to be pushed back. I don't think the developer should have been fired, and I most certainly don't think it's dead on arrival, because if there's anything that I would say is a little bit dead on arrival, I'm going to be honest with you. I think, well, I don't know. I don't think a lot of games are going to be dead on arrival this year, because I feel like this kind of game, it's listened to the community, and I've always found that the main, like, Call of Duty community, like this, like the ones that have been playing it for years, have been the most ungrateful. But I wouldn't consider myself to be part of that, because while indeed I've been playing it for years, I've always been very open-minded, and it's pretty much a shame to see that the community kind of shuts or you know, treats Sledgehammer like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what Sledgehammer does with this. Sledgehammer, if you're listening, I just want to congratulate you for doing a good job. I actually had messaged your head of communications to tell you doing a good job, because you deserve it. You deserve the praise that you're getting right now for doing a game like this in a time crunch. So, you know, and the new manager of Call of Duty social media is fantastic. The marketing that she has done is absolutely incredible. Like, it's almost like, I don't know, like, communication wise, it's the best, because it's not revealing too much, it's not revealing too little. But yeah, the new manager, which I will link on the under the video for the Call of Duty Twitter, deserves all the praise, really. So yes, as I said, I reached out to the co-head of communications for Sledgehammer Games, and I literally just said, look, like, just tell Sledgehammer they've done a fantastic job, because you guys have, everyone at Sledgehammer has done an amazing job this year, and I'm looking so forward to what you have in store, because I feel like this is going to be the most action-packed Call of Duty, like, content-wise and experience-wise, we've had in a long time. You know, this does feel like what Call of Duty needed to be for so long. It feels like a refresh. So yeah, obviously now to you guys, I'm gonna make more content. I apologize I've been away for so long, but I'm here now, And obviously, I'm going to try and make a more conscious effort to give you as much content as I can, because at the end of the day, with the amount I've missed out on and trying to establish myself as an esport player, I haven't really helped out. So yeah, I'm here now, and I'm just looking forward to the future for how I go as a content creator. So if you liked it, leave a like, comment, and if you don't agree with my opinion, that's totally fine. I would love to hear why you don't agree with it. You know, I'm not going to be toxic about it. I'm going to completely respect what you think. And, you know, like, just have a good one, everyone. Right? Like, you all deserve to be happy. You all deserve to have a great day, and I will see you later. Goodbye.